talk about Havertz, I worry about those late runs into the box against Fulham, because I'm sure that Bassi and Tosin, as good as they have been, are going to have a job on their hands trying to deal with the movement of Gabby Jesus.
As we arrived, our cameraman was like, "You must have loved last night, and are you confident?" You were like, "No, not really, because now you're gonna have to respond." And I feel exactly the same.
You are a better team than we are on paper. That's not, I don't think that's disrespectful to say. And it's a bit like, if Fulham get a result here, okay, yes, it's at home and you should be able to maybe change things a little bit, but given the record, I don't think that's that weird.
How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another Box to Box. Listen, it's Fulham versus Arsenal on Sunday. Chance for Arsenal to bounce back, but Fulham haven't had the greatest results recently as well, so they'll be looking to bounce back. Joined here by the a Fulham fan who comes with a high recommendation from Turkish. Very big fan of your knowledge and your work around Fulham and how well you know your club. So let's get straight into it. The real question is, whose New Year's Eve is going to be ruined?
Probably both, considering the way that where things have gone in the last couple of days. Look, it's one of those where I was thinking about this before the game. I was then probably would have preferred Arsenal to win 5-0 last night, right? And it seems like a mad thing to say. But now you're like, okay, where's the bounce back? And look, Fulham have had a really weird December. So we had the 2 5-0s. Everyone was like, oh, everything's fixed. It's great. We're sorted.
I started to worry. I was like, oh no.
And then suddenly, lose 2-0 to Burnley here. Go away to Bournemouth, get spanked. Not even just a result, but just such a poor performance. And against Burnley as well. And then you're thinking, which Fulham's going to turn up? I suppose the question is, which Arsenal's turning up as well? So, I'm not confident. I wouldn't have been confident whatever had happened, considering the way that Arsenal have played for most of this season. But, if you turn up like you did last night, maybe we've got a shot.
Well, this is the thing. It's what, like you just mentioned there, we spoke about off camera, which Arsenal turns up, which Fulham turns up. And you guys are at home, but obviously, You lost to Burnley, and I had someone say that there was booze here at Craven Cottage as well as the team were leaving. So it's not good right now for you. I don't want to get too down because we played well against West Ham. We just didn't take our chances. But I don't know if we're gonna. I want to see us bounce back, but you guys, I'm sure, looking for a bounce back from Fulham as well.
I think this is it, right? So you could accept losing to Bournemouth at their patch in the form that they're on. That's fine. Cool. But here, against Burnley, who have struggled away from home all season, you're thinking, right, that's a chance for Fulham to bounce back from the Newcastle result. I suppose the saving grace is, do the players come back in? Is Willian back in? Such a crucial player in this attack, the way that things work. We know he seems to only play well at the Cottage. You saw that. Look, our record against you at the Emirates isn't great in terms of results, but we always seem to give you a game. I think this is the thing, obviously lost 2-1 last year, got the 2-2 draw this year. Those games tend to be tight. Fulham seem to turn it on for whatever reason at the Emirates. Here at the Cottage,
we're normally good here. Yeah, we're good here. We win 3-0.
So that's the strange one, in that we seem to be able to perform against you at your gaff and not at our own. So I don't know, is the question. Raul coming back in is huge because
what happened with him? I was scoured the internet, by the way, trying to figure out why is he not playing? Was he injured? Has he been taken out of the side?
He got sent off against Newcastle.
That's what, I don't know.
For that bizarre karate kick.
Of course, sorry. That's
I was on the Saturday football show on DR that day, and I was looking at it again. I don't know what I can say about that, really, can I? There's not much defending that to do.
Right, sorry, that's what it was. Of course, I don't know why that slipped my mind, but I was just trying to find it. I was like, Jimenez has been playing. Muniz has been playing up top for you guys, and doesn't seem to be doing well. I mean, he hasn't scored.
He hasn't. Look, to be fair, he hasn't had any chances, and that's the thing. It has nothing has been created for him. But Silva's side is so reliant on a player who can drop in. And Mitrovic did this last season, and there were question marks over what Raul did and what he brought to the table because he didn't score for ages. And everyone was like, I'm not sure this is the guy. But I think we saw in the 5-0s, whilst he wasn't, prolific, if you will, he wasn't banging in loads of goals. I think he got 3 and 3, but it wasn't like, oh, suddenly he's back. It felt more like the entire attack was functioning again.
Right.
And so when he's come out of the side for the last 2 games, or 3 games, including the Everton game, it's felt like Fulham have lacked any sort of impetus in that final third and ability to get the wide players into play. Harry Wilson had a stinker against Burnley, but the games before that, exactly. The games before that, you're starting to think, okay, Wilson, Willian, suddenly they're in the game in the right positions, and that for me is what Raul brings to the side.
Does he go straight back in?
I think he has to, because the performances without him have been. The Everton game away in the cup was great, and just in terms of the result, but equally Fulham weren't creating loads and loads and loads in that either. So I think he comes back in to try and facilitate that, and I wonder what that looks like with this Arsenal back line, and I wonder what it looks like in terms of how Fulham try and progress, because a lot of it has been down that left-hand side. It's Willian and Anthony Robinson bombing on, but we know about Saka's work rate defensively. Obviously, what he can do in the final third is one thing, but coming back and checking back into that area, I think is interesting. And Ben White probably going to continue with Tomiyasu injured. You'd assume he hasn't been great.
Yeah, we spoke about maybe a Cedric coming back in because Ben White hasn't really hit the
return
form.
to the cottage of Cedric. Huge.
No, do you know what? I'm laughing because
you couldn't get in our team. You can't get in yours.
We laughed when we mentioned it, but we actually put up I think James put up a very strong case for Cedric to start because Ben White's been playing through injury.
I think he's probably right, but it doesn't make it. That changes things in terms of if Cedric plays, Fulham attack him.
100%.
But if they don't, and it is Ben White, I don't know if Fulham channel that flank as much because of the way that Saka tracks, right? So you go then to the left-back spot, and I think that Zinchenko, whilst he offers loads in possession, etc., is defensively vulnerable.
Yeah, can also be exposed.
Can Harry Wilson get him? Because if he can, then suddenly that looks different. Maybe Castagna comes in for Tete, and that becomes a more kind of forthright, right-hand side in trying to get down there. Martinelli's work rate is good, but not as good as Saka's. So is that where Fulham attack and try and get joy?
Wilson Zinchenko scares me a little bit actually, because I think Wilson's a really good player. And I do want to ask you though, would Adama or Ream be back in at this time? Is it too soon for them as well? Because I saw they're injured, but I don't know if they're.
Adama Traore is the world's biggest myth. Apparently, he doesn't actually exist. I think we've seen him for about 15 minutes at your gaff, and that was about it. So I can't imagine he walks back into this side. I can't really imagine him being fit at this point. So full stop, not just for this game, just ever. But Tim Ream, I think, has been kept out. He has been injured, but he was moved out of the side to allow Bassi and Tosin to try and strike up a partnership. It worked really well for the first couple of games. There have been slight more question marks as they've been, exposed a little bit, but I think a lot of that is down to the fact that Polinia's played badly in the last two games, and he tends to turn up against Arsenal as well. I
know, it's ridiculous. He turns up against us. Jimenez, I mean, he tried that audacious bicycle at our place, and that could have been goal of the season if I'm honest. That went in, but so there is threats in Fulham side. I actually like Jedi as well.
Me too.
I really like him. I was funny enough, with CONCACAF, I was in America. I was in America with him when he was playing for the USA. Really good guy and a good player as well. He, especially this season, I feel like he's hit some sort of form. I know
he gets better every season. I think it's really impressive with Jedi because his end product isn't always there. And people have questioned that when Fulham especially are dominant, especially in a championship, people are like, well, he doesn't provide those crosses that, he's getting chance after chance after chance. But when he is released down that left-hand side, especially when Fulham play a little bit more transitionally, as we're going to have to, I think, against Arsenal. 100%. He is such a threat.
He is.
And he carries the ball so well in those areas, and I love that from him.
Yeah, he's very fast and he's got a lot of pace and powerful. It's Anthony Robinson, by the way, just for clarity, because there might be some Arsenal fans watching like, fifth is Jedi. But because it's funny, when I was with the team that was calling him, and even at first I was like, oh, who is that? And found out who it was. But I also want to take a little bit of a left turn here for this box to box. We have some players that were at Arsenal that are obviously featuring for you guys, and I don't know, I just want to get your thoughts on them. Obviously, we've got Leno, Iwobi, I'm missing Willie. I mean, some people want to forget the Willian phase, but those players for you, though, what have you made of them? I know it's been a long time, there's not really too much affiliation now, but we have a goalkeeper issue when it comes to Ramsdale and Raya. Leno was the one that kind of, felt had to re-sacrifice for that because we brought Ramsdale in. But what have you made of the three players, since they've been at Fulham?
Look, Leno's been absolutely sensational. And I think there's a case to make over the last, 18 months that he's been the best keeper, maybe outside of Alisson, in the Premier League. Wow. Because his shot-stopping ability. And I think there is something to say that maybe he is more suited to a club like Fulham than he was perhaps to Arsenal. But ultimately, and I know that there is a lot of chat, and I enjoyed the discourse around keepers playing out from the back and being able to start attacks and all that. There does come a point where I just need you to keep the ball out the back of the net. And Leno is exceptionally good at that. And I think, Fulham play slightly lower. We have less opportunities.
Oh, blimey.
Less opportunities to kind of make that happen. It doesn't quite matter as much how well he knocks it around from there. But he's been perfectly fine in that regard from Fulham. I've never been there going, Leno's distribution is dreadful. Yeah. He's been incredible. And I think probably if Polinia wasn't here, we'd be looking at Leno as player of the season over the last 2 years probably.
It's nice to hear that.
He's having a wonderful time. He's back in the Germany squad. Yep. It's great to see, and I think that kind of sense of, wow, I'm going to go and rebuild and restart, and for the price you sold him to us for, I'd just like to say thanks. But yeah, look, he's been brilliant. Iwobi's been a breath of fresh air this season.
Nice.
And I think there was always more to him than what we saw at Everton, because those systems felt like they were restricting him a bit. He's suddenly sort of exploded into this player who carries really well. He's not always on it, and maybe that's the difference between a very, very top tier player and someone slightly in the tier below. But when he does carry and when he does get on the ball and he gets into those spaces, he's been the player kind of pulling the strings in there. And the way he plays with Andres Pereira, they dovetail really nicely together, duck in and out of each other's spaces, and they've learned to play together. It didn't start brilliantly.
Yeah, Iwobi's a good ball carrier, isn't he?
He ducks into the middle from that right-hand side, and Pereira goes out to the right then, and suddenly you're like, ooh, okay, people don't know who they're tracking. Iwobi's getting those shots off from outside the area, which we know he's good at. And yeah, I think he's become a pretty crucial element this side. I'm actually pretty concerned that him and Bassi and Balafolo are going off to
African Cup of Nations. So yeah, of course.
I'm a bit concerned about losing Bassi and Iwobi in particular in that kind of space.
Big miss, yeah.
But you know, it is what it is, an opportunity for us to step up. But he's been brilliant since he came in. And look, Willian hasn't had the best season this year. Last year he was phenomenal.
Yeah, it was good.
And I think that was last year. He's still got that thing that I think frustrated Arsenal fans at the time, where he slows the game down when it feels like you're in a mood to transitionally break.
We had I know that pain from Willian.
His technical ability is still so good that often he still picks that right pass, still makes things happen, and I think we've missed him in the last couple of weeks. To begin with, I was like, I'm not sure he fits this new kind of style that Fulham are trying to exploit this year with the pace on the counter. But I think when he's gone missing, you're like, oh no, very important actually.
Yeah,
so sometimes it is just one of those, and that's it.
Well, listen, it's time. So I want to ask you about, obviously, Arsenal. It's that time. You've played us already, as you mentioned, the 2-2 draw at our place and caught us cold. But what have you made of Arsenal this season? Because last season, we didn't 248 days on top of the Premier League, didn't win it.
Yeah.
People are all the conversation now is we're not as good as last season as we are this season. But what have you made of us? Do you think we're still going to be up there and around it come the end of this season?
Yeah, I mean, I said on that first box-to-box that I thought that Arsenal would be closer to City this season. If they didn't win it, then at least it would be,
closer than last
season in terms of points towards the end of the campaign. I think it is going to be tighter. And I think that what we're seeing is Arsenal aren't as fluid, right? They're not as exciting to watch, and it's not maybe as fun in the stadium as it was last year.
Agreed.
But is that a good thing? Maybe. It feels less emotional. Yeah. It feels more secure, and maybe the defensive solidity has slightly gone out the window a tad in the last two games. But I think that when you look at it, and you talked about the West Ham game, I thought you were pretty good. Like, it is one of those.
You're right. You are right.
Missing Kai, big time. And I said in that first one, I was like, he's going to become an important player for you this season.
I can't believe that, because I never saw it at the stage when we played you guys. I mean, it feels so long ago. Even Ramsey was in goal in that game. Yeah. But I never saw Kai being missed, and he was yesterday, but available for the game against you guys on Sunday.
Well, you needed a box crassy yesterday, right? And that was it. There was no one on the end of those little dink balls into the middle, and that's the thing he's best at. It was the thing he was best at Leverkusen. Did it well at Chelsea to a point, but there weren't as many sort of opportunities. And then you kind of look at, the way that he defends corners. He's the front post man.
Yeah.
You can see from a corner at the front post. Like, it's
true. You're spot on.
It's just one of those things that you think, oh, it will be fine. He's not the crucial cog in the system. And he's not. That's right.
Yeah.
But there are certain elements where he becomes a really key player. And I think that having that in there is going to be really interesting to see what that matches up against for Fulham. We've been trying at home, especially, to play with a lone 6 in Paulinho and two number 8 10s. Tom Kearney's played there a little bit and been very, very good when Fulham have dominated the ball. But in the last two games, it has felt a little bit like it's passed him by, and I wonder if he goes for a slightly more defensive pivot there, with maybe Harrison Reed coming back in to try and caveat that, or Sasa Lukic, who's got the height maybe to track Havertz in those roles. So it's going to be interesting to see what that goes out as.
Yeah.
Look, this Arsenal side are good.
It is. It'll be interesting to see what he does in the midfield, because I think our midfield is our strong point, and yeah, if you're playing with 2 10s or 2 8s, I mean, that can be exposed, or we can dominate. So it'll be interesting to see what he goes with. Who is the threat, the main threat for Fulham, and who are you most worried about when it comes to Arsenal? Because right now my mind's all over the place when it comes to Fulham. I like Wilson. Paulinho, like you mentioned, always has a good game. If Jimenez is back, it might be. Yeah, who is it? Is it Jimenez?
There's not an obvious threat, which I think is interesting, considering when you look at Fulham a year ago, we constantly have to be like, it's Mitrovic, Mitrovic. And it was, right? The entire team and
quality player.
And the whole setup was geared around creating chances for Alexander Mitrovic. It was stick those balls up at the back post, let him attack the fullback. It was make sure that he sits in the middle, flicks it over to Wilson and gets on the end of the return ball. Jimenez is a different player, and it's taken Fulham a lot of time to adapt to the way that he plays. So I would say that he's the key piece but maybe not the man who's going to end up on the edge of it. And so whoever plays on the right, I hope it is Harry Wilson, but it could be Bobby De Cordova-Reid, it could be Alex Iwobi switch back over to that side. Whoever ends up on that right-hand side for Fulham, I think probably is the danger man, just because I think the Zinchenko can be got at defensively. And look, that doesn't mean he's not going to go up the other end and whack in 3 assists, but I think that maybe that's the key. And I think that, I talk about Havertz, I worry about those late runs into the box against Fulham, because I'm sure that Bassi and Tosin, as good as they have been, are going to have a job on their hands trying to deal with the movement of Gabby Jesus. And they've played against some interesting strikers, but no one with the quality that Jesus possesses in terms of dragging players out of position. That worries me. Look, Jedi, as you said, had a really good game against Saka last time out.
He did.
And Tete or Castagna are both perfectly comfortable right backs. And I think that will be a good battle against Martinelli. But someone bursting in from deep, I think, has the potential to cause Fulham real problems, especially if Pelini's still off it.
I hear you. You sound like an Arsenal fan in the sense that you're saying Jimenez is good, but it's to bring in the right winger to probably score. It won't be him scoring. Now, I sound like when I speak about Jesus, I'm like, I need Jesus to be there to bring in the other players. Like, we're not looking at our strikers to do the goal scoring. It's more, we need you to keep the fluidity within our team.
Liverpool won the league with Firmino up top, right? Like,
and that's the best example of it. So that is so funny to hear. I need to know, when you do your Fulhamish podcast, what is the expectation for Fulham this season? Where are you as a fan? What are you looking to get from this season? Europe might be a big ask, even though it goes down to, the top 6. I think it might even be 7 this year. Yeah, so like, what is the Fulham's expectations? Or do you want to be mid-table? I'm interested to know.
Look, we were trying to secure, I think, and get back into that stay. Fulham had that, obviously, 13-year stay in the Premier League where things were very comfortable. We got to Europe in that time, got to a final, had a great run. And then it went into this wild yo-yo kind of period. And instead of having that between seasons at the moment, it feels like Fulham having it in month. So, like, you go from the highs of the 5-0 and then lose to Bournemouth and Burnley. You're like, all right, cool. I have no idea where I'm going with this anymore. So at the moment, it's like this, the optimism around the season is we're in a Carabao Cup semi-final. I think that shouldn't be overlooked. Yes, it's against Liverpool. Where does that matter in terms of their priority list? How does that change? I don't know yet. And I think that what Fulham have done in the Carabao Cup is impressive, because we've not ever been to that stage of that competition before. Right. It's been, 10, 12 years since we were in any sort of semi-final. Yep. And I think domestically, people were looking for a bit of a cup run and to secure Premier League football again, especially when it got to the end of the window and you're like, you haven't replaced Alexander Mitrovic. What I'd like to see is Fulham go out in January and start planning for next season. Nice. So, bringing in a defensive midfielder who might have to cover, because look, Pelini isn't going to be here forever. It's as simple as that. I don't know if he'll go in January. I don't think he will.
No, that'll be a bit, yeah.
I think that, come the summer, someone is going to come in and take him off our hands. And look, he deserves that shot at the very big time, and I respect it. So he's been brilliant for us 2 seasons, and, if he then makes that move, I think he'll go with the well wishes of most, if not everybody. But, Fulham have to have some succession planning in there. It shouldn't be come to the summer and be like, oh God, we've got to get a Pelini replacement. Look at it now. Look at who comes into that space. Look now at who comes into that number 9 role. Raul might have done well in the last couple of weeks, but is he the long-term answer at 31 with a serious injury behind him? Probably not. That's what I would like Fulham to start doing. And I know that sounds really like off-pitch.
No,
I want a succession plan. I want to see that the squad is being built for the future and to try and continue to level up in the Premier League. And look, if that is 13th, 12th, 11th, 10th, and 10th last season was potentially an overperformance, and maybe it's heightened expectations of what actually is achievable. I don't think the top 7 is in play. I think maybe beating Liverpool in the Carabao Cup final and then getting to a one-off at Wembley might be. Yeah. Then maybe that's the route into Europe.
That'd be amazing.
But
That'd be amazing
stay up, stay out of the relegation vortex. And there's a difference, I think, between being like, okay, we stayed up by 5 points and it came down to the last thing. I want us safe by April. Yeah. That's what I want from this season, and then it allows you to build a platform, right?
I like this. I think that's actually very refreshing to hear. I'll be real, because listen, when I ask that question, expectations, you can go for the generic, want trophy, want silverware, want to be in these positions, but sometimes it is those little steps or a more realistic approach. Like, we want to put the ball back in the net. Yeah. We need because some people might even say little things when I ask fans that and they say, look, I want to see an identity. I need to see an identity for my club. I like those sort of answers.
Fulham have that. So that's nice in that I don't have to. I spent 3 years doing it, and then Marco Silva came in, and I was like, wow, Fulham have an identity. This is good. And so it's about developing that and bringing in the players who, he has high expectations and high hopes, and he's just signed a new contract. I imagine that means that the board have given him assurances that there is going to be investment and the players coming in who can reach the ideals that he wants to get to. But he's also improved loads of players, and that's probably worth pointing out at this point. And
100%.
That's what's nice to see about this Fulham side. It is a bit up and down at the moment, but I think everyone's relatively calm.
Good. And no, thank you again. Thank you. As an answer, actually, I don't know why. I enjoyed listening to that. Let's go to the stage where now we get to give our predictions, which most times I don't like giving score predictions. I don't like score predictions in general on videos. But as we arrived, our cameraman was like, "You must have loved last night, and are you confident?" You were like, "No, not really, because now you're gonna have to respond." And I feel exactly the same because of your results. So it's like, I don't know, what are you thinking? How do you think it's going to play? What do you think the score's going to be?
Look, I think Fulham will come out with intent, and I think that there is going to be that element of sort of first 10, try and get into the game, disrupt the rhythm, and try and put that pressure on. If that works, then we could see quite an interesting affair if we go 1-0 up and then have to see it. But as the game progresses, Fulham are going to just progressively get deeper. That is what's going to happen, unless we're behind. So I'm going to say my head says this fixture's dreadful for us. My head says we probably lose it 3-1. But I think that my heart says that if Fulham get the opening goal and can frustrate for 45 minutes, frustrate the fans and start to get, tetchy about who's playing where, who's playing up top, trying to bring on, and I thought, Arteta's switching and bringing Reece Nelson into the side for Zinchenko last night and be like, what formation are you playing anymore? And I was like, I don't think that's going to work, man. I think you've got to kind of stick with having an actual system rather than just sticking all the attacking.
No, he just said, all the attackers go.
On you go, see what happens. I was a bit like, okay, if he does that, I know they're in panic mode. Yeah. And if we can get to that stage, then maybe Fulham nick something. So my head says 3-1, my heart says 1-0.
I don't think you're far off from your heart and your head, if I'm honest. I think it could be a 1-1, which is ridiculous me saying because, and I don't want to disrespect Fulham, but it's like we should be winning.
No, 100%. But you are a better team than we are on paper. That's not. I don't think that's disrespectful to say. And it's a bit like if Fulham get a result here, okay, yes, it's at home, and you should be able to maybe change things a little bit. But given the record, I don't think that's that weird.
Exactly, and that's why I'm so stumped because, like you said, if you get a goal early, if you sit in a low block, I mean that seems like our kryptonite. You get a goal early, low block, we haven't got the answers, so that could happen. I went with the preview. On the preview, I said 1-0, but I actually think you could score. Laurie went 2-1. I think I'm going to change that to 2-1 as well to Arsenal. But I think it'll be such a tight affair. There's so many factors that are at play.
Someone's going to win 4-0 now, aren't they?
Like I said, whose New Year's is going to be ruined? We're going to have to see. But yeah, I think that's my score prediction. And again, thank you for joining me and breaking down this game from a Fulham's perspective. Make sure you check out Fulhamish Pod as well. The links will be in the description as well. And let us know your thoughts and predictions in the comments below. Like the video if you like the video, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care, everyone. Peace.